to a 1-goal lead. How have you read it all?
Yeah, not a game I was expecting. I mean, I was expecting it to be tough in the sense that both teams know each other, and I think Arsenal, we know how they play in respect of their defensive strength and don't give a lot of chances away. So I thought that it might be hard to create moments, but how it played out, obviously City getting the early goal, and then Pep Guardiola resorting to a way of playing that I've never seen before, but I really liked it. It wasn't a criticism when I was talking during the game. I really enjoyed the fact that he went to 5-4-1. He decided that he was just going to manage the game without the ball, which is great, and play on the counter-attack. Play on the counter-attack with only one forward on the pitch in the end. He had 4 midfield players and 5 defenders, and they looked so comfortable. You know, Arsenal, the fans remained in the stadium, but there was just nothing happening at all. And then obviously that late moment, that late goal, which obviously has meant that the sort of spoils are shared. But yeah, an interesting day. Not necessarily a good day for either team in demonstrating that they've got the credentials to be better than Liverpool, but there's a long way to go.
Should we be happy that Pep Guardiola surprised us again? You know, he has so many dimensions, and that's one that perhaps hadn't occurred to anyone, that he would play such a big chunk of such a big game like that.
I think the reason he's done that today, and obviously we'll see his post-match interviews, will be that he is recognising that Arsenal, they're a one-trick pony. Set pieces just such a large percentage of their chances and goals that you end up in a situation where you just got to have big players in the box and a goalkeeper who comes and punches. And if you don't, you're going to get beat up on corners and set pieces and free kicks. So I think it was a response to that, and knowing what Mikel Arteta would do, that they would obviously press hard, they would get more corners, they would get more play. And he's got 9 giants on the pitch just to be able to head it. And they did it absolutely perfectly. They defended. It was almost at one point I was saying, every time a long throw-in came in and every time a corner came in, it was almost as if they were saying, more will deal with that. There's no problems whatsoever. But it was unusual because, you know, I always remember going back to Pep Guardiola's first season in England, and it wasn't a successful season, if you remember. They didn't win the league in that first season. And he said that the reason that they would concede, I remember a couple of games I watched, and let's say they were winning 2-1 and then they conceded late on. He said it wasn't because they didn't have the physicality, it was because they didn't keep the ball well enough. And then beyond that, for the last 6, 7, 8 years, we've just seen them dominate possession. Less so maybe in the last 12 to 18 months, 2 years. But when they were at their absolute best, you know, they'd be 1-0 up, but they'd have 70-80% of the ball, and the other team would be chasing shadows, and you'd be able to get nowhere near them. This is a completely different Manchester City. It's a complete turnaround. It's a 180. And to see him do that in the final parts of the game, the idea of adapting, there's a lot of questions asked of managers about do they adapt and are they agile enough if things change in games. Pep Guardiola never really changed his way of playing. It was almost as if to say everyone has to adapt to what I'm doing, and everybody copied him for years and years, playing out from the back and all of his say. But he's moved on beyond that now, and certainly a lot more physical, a lot more direct, less football than there used to be. I know he loves football, so he's going to maybe, because of the players he's got, but he's recruited those players. You know, he's recruited Nico Gonzalez and Kusanov and players like that, and players that, you know, are more physical, Reinders. They haven't got the technical ability of David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne and all those players we've seen in the last few years. So, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's still some really good players out there for City, but it's a different Manchester City, and I enjoy it. I mean, I thought that goal that Haaland scored was absolutely wonderful, because I referred to it actually in the game. There was a goal out here that Rooney and Ronaldo scored on a counter-attack. I think it was a Champions League semi-final, maybe 15 years ago, maybe 17 years ago actually. Was it that long ago? Yeah, it was 17 years ago, 18 years ago. It's scary. And I was injured that season. It was 2007-8, I think, or maybe 8-9. And honestly, it was like, wow, what have I just seen? And that was a moment out there. I just love counter-attack goals. I love Haaland. I think he's a brilliant centre-forward. I think he's stepped up enormously in this last couple of weeks in terms of his leadership and his general performance. You know, at moments in sort of his last 3 years, 4 years, we've seen him not touch the ball and not look interested at times in the game, but he's really engaged. He's engaged in his own box, heading it away, and he's engaged in up the top, fighting with Gabriel and Saliba, giving him a real hard time. And yeah, I really enjoyed watching Manchester City in that last 20-25 minutes because it was unusual and I never thought I'd see it whilst Pep Guardiola was here, and they should have seen it out. There was a real concentration and focus, and they've just had one little loose moment, and we'll cover that maybe.
Yeah, well, and we'll come to Arsenal as well, of course, and the conversations you've had around them and some of the things you've said. But I wonder how fundamental to the way City played today was their new goalkeeper and his dealing with those corners. Yeah. I think he had one skewed punch, didn't he? Just one. But broadly speaking, he was the boss. Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, he had a difficult one in the second half where he didn't just quite get enough on it, but there was people around him, players, his own defenders around him that swept it up for him. But he's dominant. I always think every goalkeeper's going to make a mistake, but make a mistake doing the right things. So if you come out and punch and you don't quite get it right and a goal goes in, I've got no problem with that because you came out and punched and you were brave and you tried to do the right thing. I've got a problem when goalkeepers hide on their line and they're like this. You see the sort of neck sort of disappear into their shoulders and you see them, their arms sort of shrink, and you think to yourself, hang on a minute, stand up, jump, punch, and you'll be 6'4", 6'5", 6'8", whatever it is when you jump and you punch. But some goalkeepers don't fancy it, and you can tell they don't fancy it. And they don't fancy it in the facial expressions, their body language. But you look at Donnarumma, and he's an animal. He's like that, he's just big. And when he comes for it, it makes oncoming attackers think about it as well, because you're going to get a right bash in the head if he comes and hits you. So for me, I just think he's a fantastic goalkeeper. He's the type of goalkeeper I've always enjoyed. I like Alisson at Liverpool. I like Donnarumma. I mean, I like Raya. But I wouldn't pick Raya over Donnarumma or Alisson just because I love a massive goalkeeper, a Schmeichel, a Van der Sar. It makes a massive difference when your goalkeeper's towering above everybody else, but also that they're very good at what they do. And he's very good at what he does. He makes saves. He's dominating in his box. He's positive in his actions. And yeah, he will make some mistakes along the way, and that's fine. But I think that he does the right things. And he had a big impact in this first week at City. And
you were quite animated when the equaliser did go in about, well, you explained to me something City did that they hadn't been doing for the previous 45 minutes.
Look, I've been watching Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool and Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, and they absolutely astonish me how high they play in their lines over this last 7 or 8 years. And even when there's time on the ball in midfield, there was a golden rule going back to Tony Adams at Arsenal and Steve Bruce and Gary Pallister and even Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic, these great back fours and back fives. If there's a player got time on the ball in midfield and gets his head up, defenders have to drop. That's just been completely turned on its head by what we've seen with these back fours at Liverpool and City over this last few years, and even this Arsenal one now, where they just push up the pitch. But City in the second half was so deep. They would what I would call, it's now called a low block, but Sir Alex Ferguson used to say to us quite a lot, don't be afraid to play 5-10 yards outside your own box. And then it leaves your goalkeeper that 10 yards, any ball over the top, it's going to run through to the goalkeeper. Arsenal had been there at that 5 yards outside their own box. You see where the sort of little arc is. What's it called? I don't even know what it's called anymore.
The D.
The D outside the 18-yard box. That's where we'd say, just there. In a line there, anything over the top's going to go out for a corner or through to your goalkeeper. And City were there for the whole of that second half, it felt like, or the majority of it. And then with literally 92, 93 minutes on the clock, Eze gets the ball in his own half, and you just think, just drop. It's a great run from Martinelli. It's the best run in football from a wide player. The very best run in football. Mane and Salah perfected it for years. The great wide players, Ian Robin, all the ones I played against. That little run inside the fullback and inside the centre-back, so that in-between run is a brilliant run. It's very difficult to know when to pass over from a fullback to a centre-back, whether to hold your line, whether to go back. And he made it brilliantly. But I just don't know why a Stones or a Diaz in the middle, when Eze's get on the ball and get on the half-turn, drop. All of us just drop together 5-6 yards, and they literally just head that clear. Or if it goes further over their heads, it goes through to the goalkeeper. So it's a real big mistake. And then the other thing that Ake didn't do was block the run. When someone's supposed to make that run, they block him. Make sure you sort of disrupt his movement and his stride. So look, I've been there and I've made those mistakes, so I'm sat here, but I'm sat here from a point of frustration as if I had made that mistake and I was the left back and the left centre-back. They'll be absolutely kicking themselves tonight. They'll be going back on that bus or plane or train, however they're getting back to Manchester, and I wouldn't be able to sleep